Okay. I don't understand. Okay. Let me look. No, that's okay. I know. I don't know why.
Technical issue before we go live. I need the city agenda. I usually read it off the online version for the proclamation. So bear with me as I get through that. I got the first one up for 30 seconds.
Mr. Mayor, the council and I think the audience can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, move over to another computer system. I got some technical issues with my one office. Are you ready to start?
Not quite. Mayor Garcia, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Just one moment. Sorry. I'm going to double check something.
Good. Yes. Yes, man.
Okay.
Yes.
We're having really trouble seeing you in Zoom, sir. Is the session still up?
Do what you need to do.
See what's going on here very quick. Okay.
You guys are on, your microphone's on Mayor Garcia. Okay.
All right. There you are. You're on the live mic there. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Are all council members present?
Recording in progress.
Okay. Good evening. I'll call the regular city council meeting to order for January 18th, 2022. We have the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Garcia, did you want to do the meeting announcement?
We'll do the meeting announcement. Pursuant to Government Code AB 361, this meeting will be held entirely virtually. All methods available for the public participation are detailed in the first page of the agenda.
Oh, okay. Roll call. Mayor Garcia,
Here.
Vice Mayor Miriam Abadamos,
Here.
Council Member Mark Joseph,
You're still muted, Mark.
oh, Mark, you did.
I'm here.
Council Member David Oro,
Here.
and Council Member Pierre Washington.
Here. Thank you. We'll move on now to report on closed session confirmation of reportable action. Mr. Ross.
Mayor and council members, members of the public, the city council convened an open session at 4:31 to address matters agendized for closed session consideration. After determining that there were no comments on the matters agendized for closed session consideration, the council adjourned at 4:32 to address those matters and concluded the closed session at 6:26 p.m. I will accomplish a written report upon return from closed session consistent with the provisions of Government Code Section 54-957.1 concerning any reportable action. That would conclude the report unless there are questions.
Any questions from council? Seeing and hearing none. On to our next agenda item, proclamations and presentations. Proclamation of American Canyon's 30th anniversary. How exciting. You know, how much have we accomplished in 30 years? And who would have thought it had been come up that fast? I'll read the proclamation. The American Canyon Proclamation recognizing American Canyon's 30th anniversary. Whereas residents began settling the area now known as American Canyon following World War II within the McKnight Acres subdivision in the 1940s and Rancho Del Mar in the 1950s. And whereas American Canyon was previously known as Napa Junction and before incorporation was served by the American Canyon County Water District and American Canyon Fire Protection District. And whereas by vote of the residents and by vote of the Napa County Board of Supervisors, the City of American Canyon incorporated January 1, 1992. And whereas since incorporation, the American Canyon community was proudly witnessed the following accomplishments. The donation of 640 acres by Jack and Bernice Newell for the Newell Open Space Preserve. And the acquisition of its own zip code, 94503, and post office, with assistance from President Clinton and Congressman Mike Thompson. The establishment of a retail corridor with 4 new shopping centers, including national anchor tenants such as Safeway and Walmart, along with a mixture of regional tenants and local businesses. The construction of a new water reclamation facility, senior center, aquatic center, and community center gym, city hall, library, numerous parks and trails, Boys and Girls Club Center, and the Wetlands Edge Trail. And the construction of American Canyon Middle School and American Canyon High School, Canyon Oaks Elementary School, and the new Napa Junction Elementary School. The expansion of its original municipal boundaries through the annexing of land to provide for a new Lavigne, Vintage Ranch, and Watson Ranch residential neighborhoods, along with commercial industrial development in the Green Island industrial area. Whereas the residents of American Canyon have embraced the mantle of services throughout the formation of numerous community groups and establishment of places of worship, such as, and it's an extensive list that covers virtually everything we all know and have contact with in American Canyon, from activities for recreation, for clubs for youth, places of worship. It's a very long list, so I'm sorry. I will certainly recommend that you read that and take a look. And thank you for all of those who have contributed their effort and their time and their resources to make this such a wonderful place to live. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of American Canyon does hereby recognize January 1st, 2022 as American Canyon's 30th anniversary, something to be very proud of. And I'm sure we'll find ways of celebrating that.
Mayor Garcia, we'd also like to just mention that we did receive 2 very special letters, which I can share screen for our folks at home. Let's see. The first one is from, this is from Senator Bill Dodd, basically congratulating us and kind of talking about where we have from and where we are now.
Teresa, can you zoom in so that we can read it,
You know what?
please?
Let me try. Can you guys, it won't all fit on one screen if I do that, but can you see that?
Oh, there.
That's perfect right there.
Right there.
Great.
Well, from the humble origins of the American Canyon Fire Protection District and the Rancho Del Mar development, the city of American Canyon has become Napa County's second largest and fastest growing city. With a new town center on the way, American Canyon will continue to mature into a city with even stronger bonds with each other and future define our own sense of community. New roads that parallel SR 29 will soon reduce traffic that can grip the daily life of residents and workers throughout the county. And with growth in the Green Island Road industrial area, jobs that pay a living wage with opportunities of upward mobility are widely available. It is clear that American Canyon is a wonderful place to live and already well on the way to a prosperous future. American Canyon is not only the most diverse city in Napa County, it is one of the most diverse in all of California. And that is what makes it one of the most friendly and inviting cities around. American Canyon residents should be proud of the work they have accomplished and how far they have come in the past 30 years. Again, congratulations, and I look forward to seeing what else can be accomplished together. If I need further assistance, please contact me at this phone number, 77224-1990. Bill Dodd, Senator, 3rd District. Well, thank you, Senator Bill Dodd, for your letter.
Yep. And I have another, just one more. This is from, put it over here. I'm gonna do the same thing. This is from Assembly Member Cecilia Aguilar Curry. Let me zoom in on that for you.
Okay. So dear Mayor Garcia, American Canyon City Council members, and American Canyon residents, I want to take this opportunity to recognize, honor, and celebrate American Canyon's 30th anniversary. While American Canyon is the youngest incorporated city in Napa County, it is the most diverse city in Napa County and the second largest city in the county. Your city motto is testament to our caring and inclusiveness. We love everyone in American Canyon. American Canyon is a great community, and I am honored to represent you in the California State Legislature. I look to you as a partner as we work together for the betterment of Napa County and California. Again, congratulations on your 30th birthday. Sincerely, Cecilia Aguilar Curry, Assembly District 4. Well, thank you for that, Assembly Member Curry. That adds a lot to our celebration.
And both of those will be on the website as part of public comment, just so that people will know where to find it if they look at this meeting date.
Well, I'm sure we'll find a way of celebrating.
Yeah.
COVID restrictions, but hopefully as they ease up toward the summer months when we can be more outdoors, I think we're going to have a great celebration here in American Canyon. And I'm sure all those organizations who have contributed to our sense of community and the success of American Canyon would be very happy to participate in that. Next we have oath of office for Chief Rick Greenberg.
Chief Greenberg. Let me.
Second here. And this is oath of office, Police Chief Rick Greenberg.
I'm moving him over.
Okay.
I'm doing it. Oh, wait. Oh, maybe you know what? I might be moving the wrong person. Let's see.
Well, this is quite a moment for us in American Canyon. We're very proud to have Police Chief Rick Greenberg on board with us.
There we go.
There he is. Good evening, Chief Greenberg.
Good evening.
Good to have you with us. It's kind of hard to do these sometimes remotely. Doesn't the same warmth, but you know, it's really from here to us, to you.
Teresa, I see some other folks on the attendee list with the last name of Greenberg. I'm gonna go ahead and assume they're related. We can go ahead and bring them up on the screen too.
They probably want to be in attendance, yes.
Okay. Let me move them over.
The names Janet and JC sound familiar, right?
That's my mom and brother, yeah.
I did
Oh.
see some Greenbergs over here. Let me see.
You know, what I miss with the Zoom is, it's very much of a family moment for us to swear in officers, and well, we'll make do with that. We'll find some ways of making that happen.
Mr. Mayor, may I suggest that anybody else in the audience who's part of the Greenberg clan raise their hand just in case because I'm seeing a lot of first names without last names. Let's see, there's Jay, there's Ryan.
All right,
Good suggestion. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
thank you for that.
Wait, that's a good idea. Okay, so.
We're gonna make it a virtual family event.
So some of these, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with moving people back and forth. Sometimes if the Zoom is not the most current version, it doesn't let me bring them over. So I'm having trouble moving any of them into,
Well, you just make an attempt and we'll
I'm sorry. They're just not moving.
Barely able to view it, so I think that's the most.
They are, I know, I've got a few.
It looks like we got one. We have Jay.
We have
The letter
Jay. Yay, Jay. Okay, so Kathy, Lynn, Ryan, these are all family, right?
I'm sure.
I think I got one more.
Yeah.
A couple of them are coming. Slowly but surely. Sorry, I think I've got everybody that's gonna move. I keep pushing them, but they're not going.
Well,
Have moved, you can turn on your cameras and your microphones.
that being said, when we move forward with administering the oath.
Okay. Okay, Chief Greenberg. Raise your right hand, please. Wait, I can't see. Oh, there you are. Okay. I, and state your name and title,
I, Rick Greenberg, Police Chief,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chief Greenberg. Any comments you would make?
First off, I'd like to thank Mayor and the city council members and the city for the appointment of the Marion Canyon Police Chief. For the last 6 months, it's been a pleasure serving as interim chief. And I look forward to continuing to serve the wonderful city of Marion Canyon and working together with the community and its business owners, keeping Marion Canyon a safe place to live and work. Lastly, I'd like to thank the community for all the support of ACPD. I cannot express how much our officers appreciate all the support the community gives us. So thank you again, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Congratulations again. We look forward to continue working with you, the excellent service you provide. Would you like to introduce your family members who are on board with us this evening?
My wife Ryan, in the yellow shirt. And I'm not sure who Jay is.
Jay,
I have a bunch of Jays, so it could be my mom Janet, it could be my brother JC, or my dad John. So, or my
Welcome. Good to
I
have
have a lot of Jays in
everybody
your family.
Have Janet and JC in the audience, so it's
Yeah.
not them.
yeah.
We also have
here. Yeah, to
a,
celebrate this moment with us, so. All right, we'll get on to celebration,
Thank you.
one, we're face to face rather, sometimes, so good to have you with us. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on with our agenda this evening. Public comment, items not on the agenda. Did we receive public comment this evening?
Yes, Mayor Garcia, we received one comment from Joan Bennett. I know she was trying to come on board to make an oral comment. And Joan, if you are online, could you raise your hand, please? I do not see a hand. Well, I do have a hand raised, but it's not Joan. So I don't think that she's here to make a comment.
Did you receive a phone call?
She would be on here if we did, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, we may.
So I do have, let's see, I do have one hand raised. It is Justin Hamilton Hole. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, good evening, Mayor
Good
and
evening.
our peer, the city company. Hello, Mr. Ross and Jason Hawley. I want to two things I'm going to do is one is the pipe issue. I called Erica last week. I said I think city doing a good job. Good the pipe. That's amazing. The second one is, do you guys hear back Dunmore, West Karen, Dunmore, we can build a house, buy a house, 3 house, or their update about that? Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. I think we had another, I had another.
Mayor, I was wondering, Joan Bennett, did she have anything in writing or? Because she didn't make it on, but it'd be interesting to hear what she has to say.
We were emailed a letter earlier today that was forwarded from Joan, from Cherry Bennett, Cherry Bennett, from Cherry Walton.
Oh, okay, I'll check. I haven't seen my email lately. Okay, thank you.
I do see Beth actually has her hand raised, Teresa.
Yep, yep, okay. Beth, let's see, here we go. Beth, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, happy anniversary to our city. Yay.
Thank you.
I have a sort of a silly, stupid, embarrassing question to ask, and maybe Pierre can answer it. But I'm not the only one who's interested in this. But where can we take our old flags to get disposed of?
The VFW will gladly take them in, and we work with the Boy Scouts of America, and we properly dispose of them. So I'll give you a call, I'll connect with you, and I'll pick up whatever flags you have.
Okay, thank you. Because like I said, I've had other people ask me the same question, so.
Yeah, there's a ceremony, a nice ceremony that goes along with retirement.
It is.
Oh, really? Oh, I've never, as a veteran, I should know that, but thank you. It's
I'll invite you to the ceremony.
Okay, thank you very much.
You got it.
Thank you, everybody.
Councilmember Washington, would you mind also sharing that information with Jen, our communications manager? We ought to put that actually on our website to be able to share that with the community.
Okay, you got it.
Thank you.
Anything further on public comment?
Let me see. There are no other hands raised at this time.
Okay, pretty good. And we'll close public comment. Move on with our agenda. Any agenda changes, council? Not hearing none. Motion to accept the consent calendar.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion second, roll call please.
Councilmember Joseph,
Aye.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abdamas, and Mayor Garcia.
Yes, I don't think we could hear you, Vice Mayor.
I said yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. We'll move on now to our public hearings, item number 11, acquisition of certain property for a public purpose.
Yes, Mayor and Council, at your special meeting of January 7, you continued that hearing to this date to take any additional action as may be necessary with respect to a resolution of necessity, which you approved at that time. There is no need for taking any additional action. Accordingly, the recommendation is a motion to close the continued special hearing of January 7, 2022.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
we do have public hearing on this thing? Do we need public comment?
No.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion and a second?
Okay, Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abdamas,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes. Thank you, Council. Moving now on to item 12, urgency ordinance and zoning code amendment, fuel stations.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Brent Cooper, our Community Development Director, will be flying in here momentarily into the Zoom room. But this is kind of a two-part item tonight. One related to the urgency ordinance, the interim urgency ordinance that exists around fuel stations and extending that out. And then the second one around the permanent ordinance and the first reading of that. And so without stepping on Brent's toes too much, I'll let him tackle the topic for you. Welcome, Brent, and thank you, Mayor.
Great. Good evening, Council and Mayor Brent Cooper. I'm glad to bring to you the urgency ordinance extension and the permanent ordinance on fuel stations. And happy to kind of run you through with a brief presentation on some of the details on the zoning code amendments. Of course, this is all motivated by climate change consequences. The topic here are fossil fuel service stations, and of course, burning fossil fuel has had some terrible consequences for American Canyon and the broader world around us. American Canyon has a long history of commitment to sustainability. I have just a brief list here. Over the past 8 years or so. Of course, the most recent action had to do with the climate emergency proclamation towards the end of last calendar year. So one of the reasons for taking a look at focusing on fuel stations has to do with transportation being the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in California, with the single largest source being passenger vehicles. And so there's a direct tie between greenhouse gas emissions, passenger vehicles, primarily those that burn fossil fuels. Just kind of a refresh for everybody on our status of fossil fuel stations in American Canyon. Of course, in the blue star here, we have our 3 existing stations, Safeway, Union 76, and Chevron. The Circle K with the red star is under construction, and we have one pending application for a proposed 7-Eleven gas station over by Walgreens there at Silver Oak and American Canyon Road. We did have one other application for a Rotten Robbie over here at Donaldson Way and Broadway, but they withdrew their application soon after the introduction of the first urgency ordinance. All of our ordinances, of course, need to be consistent with the general plan, and this one is. The council recently adopted general plan policies related to greenhouse gas emissions. And if we were to get right down to the goal of, in terms of decisive near-term action, this would be one of them. And we have a tailored policy at the bottom of the page here related to prohibiting construction of new fossil fuel stations in American Canyon. In order to affect our new ordinance, we need a couple of new definitions. The first one here is zero emission vehicle. There's a lot of words there. I apologize for some of the fine print, but the key takeaway are vehicles that have no tailpipe emissions. And then a second concept, force majeure. This will be talked about a little later in the presentation, but it's a term that's used for a situation that's extraordinary and unforeseen and out of control for many parties. And this was really a concept that the Planning Commission introduced to the ordinance in reflection on our pandemic and other potential disasters or maybe other pandemics or whatever might come up, or these situations that I think are important to bear in mind are always possible. We now have two classifications of service station. Today it's just called service station. And so we've kind of differentiated between a fossil fuel service station and a zero emission vehicle fuel station. This one here is describing the fossil fuel station. There's not a whole lot of change from the description we have. The service stations sell motor vehicle fuel, but also incidental, they may include light repair, upholstery work, just convenience things to keep your vehicle running on the road. And along with that, maybe incidental groceries or just things that you might need when you're there. So zero emission fuel service station is in many ways just like a fossil fuel one. It still includes these incidental uses I've highlighted in yellow, but they're tailored to selling fuel specifically for zero emission vehicles. Also wanted to point out, because much of our solution to emerging into more of an electric vehicle environment are electric vehicle charging stations that you're going to see at everyday places. Of course, we have them already at City Hall. And so it is a place, of course, where zero emissions get fueled, but they're not a fuel station per se. And the ordinance makes that distinction. It's an accessory use to whatever else is happening, like maybe parking lot at City Hall or a hotel or any number of places where you'll be seeing them in the future. One of the cleanup items that we kind of discovered as we take a look at our ordinance, we appear to have a redundant description for service station. It's called a gas station and automobile service facility. Nice to get rid of these things with their cleaned up. So it's just sort of a cleanup item to delete that from our ordinance. Getting a little more into what we actually do to our zoning districts. Today, service stations are only permitted in our community commercial and neighborhood commercial zoning districts. And so the change that we would do to the table for those zoning districts is to delete, of course, this redundant gas station, just as a cleanup. We'll rename service station to fossil fuel service station and prohibit it specifically in those two districts. And then we'll add zero emission fuel station, and it will be a conditionally permitted use in those two zoning districts. We also have our Broadway district specific plan. It identifies gas stations and service facilities. So that'll be deleted from the district. And then we'll add zero emission service station as a conditionally permitted use in business park zoning districts. So we would have it available in 3 districts in our town: community commercial, neighborhood commercial, and in the business park. In the Broadway district, the business park zoning district tends to be, it's at the northern end of our specific plan. So the 3 existing stations, and of course the new one under construction, would, once this ordinance adopted, would become a non-conforming structure. And so there's a whole area of our zoning code that deals with uses that once were permitted, and then we change the zoning and they're no longer permitted. One thing it doesn't mean is they have to stop operating. But there's a lot of some details to be aware of. So, like I mentioned, they are allowed to continue to operate as long as they're continuously operated. Many times when you have a non-conforming use, there's restrictions on alterations. And so this section here would prohibit fossil fuel stations from increasing their capacity to sell fossil fuels. So they're kind of locked into what they have today. Some of the other restrictions we have for non-conforming uses would be they may not be enlarged, reconstructed, or extended, kind of like the idea with selling more fossil fuels. There are some exceptions to that rule here down in D. So if there are improvements needed for public health and safety, and we kind of cite some things here, stormwater quality, maybe building code upgrades, make them better, pedestrian and bicycle access, things that are in the public health and safety realm. Other changes might be if they were to add battery charging stations for zero emission vehicles, or perhaps hydrogen fuel stations. Those would be changes that would be allowed. One of the limitations on a non-conforming use is if it stops operating for a certain period of time, it loses its non-conforming status and must be removed. And so that's an important area. Elsewhere in the city where there are non-conforming uses, there's a 180-day limitation. So if something stops being operated as a non-conforming use for 180 days, it loses its status and may not reopen. So that's a key feature. The other one we mentioned before, the force majeure, that would be an extenuating circumstance. And so the 180-day rule wouldn't apply. It's hard to predict what might be needed in the way of an extension because it's an unforeseen event. And so we have.
Excuse me for a moment. Beth Marcus, would you mute your computer, please? Dog's barking a lot.
Oh,
Thank you. Please continue.
Thank you. So a force majeure event, that would overrule the 180-day rule because it's out of everyone's control. And so an extension would be determined by the community development director and the city attorney working together. So you kind of have a check and balance there. But it would be a case-by-case decision based upon the circumstances. And then per code, any of the decisions by the community development director can be appealed to the planning commission or city council. So that would be a further check and balance to that. So that's kind of the limit of the changes that we'd make to the zoning code. I guess as zoning codes amendments go, it's not too extensive. Just kind of here we are in the schedule overall. The planning commission evaluated this ordinance 2 times. October 28th, this is where they introduced the concept of force majeure, and the city attorney went back and we took a look at that and came back in December 16, made the amendments, and the commission unanimously recommends the city council approval. This meeting would be a first reading of the new ordinance and extending the moratorium because there's a gap in a period of time when the moratorium would expire before the new ordinance would take effect. So we have the extension of the moratorium to deal with that gap. And then this would be the first reading of the permanent ordinance. We come back, if it's approved today, with a second reading on February 1st, and then it would take effect 30 days later on March 3rd. And then the moratorium would sunset at that point. This is exempt in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act. Among reasons for policies that protect the environment. And with that, we have two recommendations. One to continue the moratorium and introduce the first reading of the fossil fuel station ordinance. And I'm glad to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Any questions from council this time? Comments? Seeing none, council ready for public comment on this matter? Have we received any public comment on this?
I've received no written public comments. I see no hands raised.
Okay. That being said, we'll close public comment at this time. Return to council for further discussion, desired action. Council. Any further comment? If not, we'll entertain a motion on each item.
Well, okay, if that's the case, if there's no further comment, this has been something in the making for a while, so let's see it here. So I will move forward with the interim urgency ordinance. So I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2022 next in order, an interim urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of American Canyon, California, enacted pursuant to California Government Code Section 65858, establishing a 12-month temporary moratorium on the approval of discretionary applications for new fuel stations that are not complete as of the effective date of the ordinance in all zoning districts in the City of American Canyon, pending review and possible amendment of municipal code regulations, and setting forth the facts constituting such urgency. PL 21-005.
Second.
To the second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph,
Aye.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abadamas,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes. Thank you, council.
I'll go ahead and make the second motion, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move ordinance number 2020 next in order. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of American Canyon, California, amending the American Canyon Municipal Code, Chapter 19.04 definitions, Chapter 19.05 commercial classifications, Chapter 19.11 commercial zoning district, Chapter 19.49 non-conforming uses, structure and lots, and Broadway District Specific Plan Table 2-3 permitted uses to prohibit new and expanded service stations in all zoning districts in the City of American Canyon that engage in retail sale of motor vehicle fossil fuels, PL 21-0028.
And I'll second that.
To the
I'm
second.
sorry, who was the second?
Peter
Washington.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abadamas,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes. Thank you, council. Moving on a business item on our agenda this evening, item 14, annual comprehensive financial report.
Actually, Mayor, we have business item number 13, which is Amendment 17.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself here. Yes. Amendment 17 of Napa County Agreement number 3220 for law enforcement services.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Teresa's going to bring back up Chief Greenberg to talk about this item from the sheriff office perspective, and if there are any questions on the city side, I'll be happy to jump in and answer those as well.
Okay.
I'll let Chief Greenberg kind of take it away.
Okay, I was able to bring him without video. He's not able to turn the video on, but he can speak to you. Oh, no, he did.
Look at that. It worked.
He's magic.
He's magic.
He's magic. He's an IT guru also, little did we know.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members. So tonight I just wanted to go over an amendment that I'm proposing for the law enforcement contract with the sheriff's office. So over the last year, city staff and the sheriff's department has evaluated the staffing of the public safety building front counter. Since 2007, that position has been filled by a city position. And basically that position, the duties are to, when the public comes to the public safety building, whether it be for a fire district related issue or a police related issue, the front counter clerk does various duties, whether it be providing copies of police reports, or just assisting the public in any general manner, whether it be police or fire related. Over the years, this position has been given more duties, and there's been a lot more confidential information that this person has access to as an employee. So there's been a lot of turnover with the city position. It recently has been vacant for, I want to say, going on close to when COVID started. And so our police technicians have had to step in and fill the position temporarily, which is taken away from writing parking tickets, towing vehicles, and so forth. So after evaluation of the position, we feel the sheriff's office already has employees that can fulfill that position, which is our records tech 2. And that's what they do on a normal basis. And so we feel that this will be beneficial to the city because we already have several employees that can fulfill that position, and we have an open enrollment currently position up at the Sheriff's Department that could fill the position down here in Marion County. It will also be beneficial for if the employee has to go out on leave, that under contract, the Sheriff's Department would have to fulfill that position. So I don't know if there's any questions other than what's on the staff report.
Questions, Councilmember Washington?
I believe Mark was before me.
Go ahead. Mayor Joseph?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, my only question is on the backfill for vacation and things of that nature. Is there no extra additional costs? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, that was my only question.
Okay. And for me, I was just going to say, it sounds like a good arrangement. You know, for 20 grand a year more, we probably get a more qualified by virtue of their training and background. We get the advantage of, you know, like the sheriff's deputies themselves, you know, it's up to the county to make sure there's somebody there, and it's one headache off of our shoulders. And, you know, it makes things run a little smoother. And so I think it's a good idea, and I appreciate the fact that you're bringing it forward.
I have a question on the fiscal impact of looking here at the year 2021, 2022, and it's 30,213. Is that for a partial year? It's trying to figure out how that applies.
Yes, if the contract amendment is approved, start March 1st. So it's
okay.
It's adjusted for the March date.
Fractionally, okay, understood. I think that important that we have people who meet that criteria qualification, particularly with the sensitivity of documents that they and information they receive. Certainly, should there ever be any litigation issue around that, we certainly have something that we could speak to with a higher level of training and responsibility as approved and validated by our sheriff's office, who we contract with. So I think our technicians have been doing a great job, but I think I have a greater comfort zone with having the type of qualification that are the highest standard. Any other comment? We have public comment on this matter?
I have no written comments. I see no hands raised.
Okay, well, then we'll close the comment on the matter and come back to council for further discussion, action. Vice President?
Well, if there's no further discussion or comments, I'll make a motion. We adopt resolution number 2022 next in order, a resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon approving Amendment 17 to Napa County Agreement number 3220 with the Napa County Sheriff's Office for law enforcement services for the period March 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2024.
I'll second, but he's no longer Vice Mayor Joseph.
This is true. I am trying.
I got
Hard
the
to
same
make
problem.
these adjustments.
You gotta shift gears at the beginning of the year. It's going to, my apologies, will bear it to mind. Remind us from time to time if I can.
Oh, it's all fun, Mr. Mayor. No worries.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abadamos,
Yes.
and Mayor Garcia.
Yes, thank you, Council. Move on now to business item 14, annual comprehensive financial report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Finance Director Lincoln Bogard will be here in a moment to present all this. I will only superficially note the new name of this document. Lincoln can explain further why it has a new name. It wasn't our idea. This was part of some GFOA standards and things like that. But what used to be called one thing is now being called something else. It's an award-winning document as we routinely get awards for our auditors' reports. Lincoln will come in and kind of explain how we ended the year. This is fiscal year 2020, 2021. It's the report from that year, which was concluded last June. And with no further ado, and also our auditor, Brian Nash, will be here to provide the auditor's perspective as well. So thank you, Lincoln, and thank you, Brian.
And here it is.
It's an actual document, yes.
Members of council and community members. As City Manager Holly was mentioning, the name of the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report was changed to the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report based on a new statement issuance, which was in answer to the fact that people were complaining that it was a slight a racial epithet in South Africa and another country. So it is now the ACFR. With that, I will share my screen and we can go through the presentation. And I'll just make a side note that hopefully this goes smoother than the finance subcommittee meeting.
Well, we all weather the storm of technical glitches, so.
So to highlight the audit, we received an unmodified, also known as a clean opinion for our ACFR this financial year. As a part of the opinion, the auditors did make an emphasis of matter and a correction of errors note. So the emphasis of matter pertained to the implementation of a new standard on how to report fiduciary activities. They mentioned that we successfully implemented that and that there was no resulting modification of opinion. Also, management here at the city identified an error in previously reported capital assets and long-term liabilities. And based on the fact that management identified and corrected those errors, the auditors also agreed that no modification of the opinion was to occur because of that item. As a general overview of the government-wide results, our citywide total net position increased by about 11.3 million. That equates to net income of about 8.6 million for governmental activities when using the full accrual accounting method, and business type activities of $2.7 million. And that includes internal service funds as well as the enterprise funds. The citywide assets and deferred outflows exceeded our liabilities and deferred inflows by $370.1 million. Of that amount, $298.3 million is related to governmental activities and 71.8 is related to business type activities. Of that total net position, 18.9 million is unrestricted and can be used to fund the city's ongoing operations. For governmental fund balances, they use the modified accrual of accounting. So long-term assets and liabilities and revenues and expenditures that are not within the period of availability are not included. So governmental funds reported a combined fund balance of 40.7 million, which was an increase of 3.2 million from last year. Of that, non-spendable remained unchanged. Restricted did increase some, and that is generally restricted by legislation. 7.7 million is committed, which is the highest reservation that the city council can make. 5.8 million is assigned, which is also determined by council action, and 3.2 million is unassigned. The general fund expenditures remained the same as last year, unchanged at 19.6 million. This was primarily due to cuts made based on the pandemic outlook. The city undertook 20 furlough days for all employees, which resulted in about a $0.5 million savings. And 3 major contractual expenditures that were budgeted in the last fiscal year were carried over into this fiscal year, which resulted in a savings for fiscal 2021 of 0.9 million. For revenues in the general fund, our property taxes increased 0.3 million. Sales tax did way better than expected, increasing 0.4 million. And other taxes, such as transient occupancy tax, card room, and other taxes were relatively unchanged from the prior year. The other item of note is that charges for services increased by 0.2 million compared to the prior year. Transfers in from other funds decreased by 0.3 million. That is mainly because of we budgeted lower for our transfers for support services, which is how the general fund bills for the services it provides to the enterprise funds and ISF. And there were lower transfers for Measure A for public works storm drains as well. After including all of those items, the general fund had a net income of 1.4 million. It is of note that before transfers, it was a net loss of 0.9 million. Also, transfers for support services do happen on an ongoing basis, so this is not a one-time thing. It's just showing that that does help support our net income. So for our audited actuals, the governmental funds listed here are in the modified accrual basis of accounting, and the proprietary funds, being the enterprise funds and internal service funds, are at full accrual accounting. So it is 2 different types of accounting. So no long-term in the top ones, long-term is included in the bottom ones. But this shows that we had the 3.2 million in net income for the governmental funds, the 1.4 million for the general fund, and all fund types were positive for the year. Proprietary funds, the enterprise funds, had a net income of 1.9 million when considering water, wastewater, and recycled water, and internal service funds had a net income of 179,000. On the balance sheet, we show the 40.7 million in fund balance for governmental funds on the modified accrual basis. Our general fund balance increased to 12.2 million. Special revenue funds at 19 million, capital projects at 9, and debt service funds are generally around break even. which they still are. Enterprise funds had 71 million and ISFs had just under $1 million. To show that another way, this shows the actual net incomes and beginning fund balance and ending fund balance for those same classifications. And as I mentioned in the first slide, when all operations were concluded, governmental activities created 8.6 million increase in net position, not the 3.2. When you include the long-term assets and for the net income, it would be your unavailable revenues. We had 9 million in unavailable on governmental. And then you had on the expenditure side, expenditures that did not qualify for full accrual. And 2.7 million for the proprietary funds. This has a lot going on, but I circled in blue the area of note. These are the classifications that council has the ability to amend and create. Committed is the highest, it's the highest commitment that the city can make. Our contingency fund is at 4.8, almost 4.9 million. And our capital projects contingency fund is at 1.5 million. We have budgeted to bring that to 2 million this fiscal year. The assigned is also established by city council. And in the general fund, we have $1 million in the economic development. We have our general plan update that is in a non-major governmental fund as of this fiscal year. It shows off to the right, 225,000. That is part of the general plan impact fee fund as a special revenue fund. And then the fire operations as a special revenue fund, it would be unassigned in the fire district operations fund, but for the purposes of the city, it is considered assigned. And their contingency also shows above. Looking at the government-wide net position, if you look to the bottom right, the total net position increased by 3.1%. Our unrestricted net position fell slightly, but I would have you notice that there was an increase in restricted net position in governmental activities of 5.8 million. 4.9 million of that is the American Rescue Plan Act funding that qualifies as revenue in the government-wide. However, it is a restricted net position until it's committed. So we'll be coming back soon with an item to bring forth ideas for usage of those funds. Also of note on this slide is the other liabilities. There was an increase of 173%. It was primarily in the governmental activities, and that was due to the fact that we did a transfer of cash from the water fund to the general fund to cover negative cash at year end. So it was a due to other funds, which is an other liability. We transferred it back after the end of the year, and we also restructured our holdings in investments so that the water fund holds some and wastewater based on an item that was brought to council earlier in the year. And looking at the sources of revenue citywide, citywide revenues were about 55.4 million, an increase of 9.8 million or 21.5%. 6.7 million was from grants and capital contributions for governmental activities, not much from business. Of the capital grants and contributions, 4.9 million is for the American Rescue Plan Act. So that slice of the pie, the grants and contributions at 13% grew from the prior year. Of note, all tax revenues come up to close to 50% of the citywide revenue base. So this chart shows the picture from the previous slide, and it shows our revenues increased 21.5% citywide. And of note, other revenues decreased 17.4%. That's going to be primarily your taxes, your transient occupancy, card room, and other discretionary revenues in the general fund for the governmental activities. Again, the grants and contributions, there's a large increase, but of the 7.7 million for the governmental activities, 4.9 is that ARPA funding. So here is a pictorial description of the functionalized expenses. There were 45.2 million in citywide expenses, an increase of 0.9 million or 2.3%. Public safety makes up the largest section of that pie. That does include both fire and police services, followed by water and sewer. That will be changing next year to water, wastewater, and recycled water. There was very little activity in recycled water this year other than capital assets transfers. So that was not broken out. To show that in a graphic format, total expenditures or expenses increased 2.3%. The wastewater fund had a large increase. That was primarily because it was the primary benefactor of the NG project that we've been undertaking and had the most expenditures in that area. Also of note is that all other decreased by 11.4%. Now that is your administration and non-departmental expenditures or expenses. And the non-departmental expenses, we had no debt service payments based on a refinancing that saved us money there, as well as the fact that administration is primarily FTE driven, and the furloughed is created a savings there. Now, when I say administration, that includes finance, city clerk, city manager's office, council, like all the administrative functions. And then capital assets by classification, we increased our capital assets by 2.9% during the year. The water and wastewater both declined and recycled water increased due to asset transfers to bring the recycled water infrastructure into the recycled water funds. The additional decreases in water and wastewater are primarily the result of depreciation. There were not many new assets brought online last year in those areas. However, of note is that there is significant construction in progress, mainly the NG program right now in the enterprise funds. And that is showing as 115% growth. And that wraps up my presentation. So I will exit this screen share and hand it off to Brian Nash for his comments.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, well, before I get started, I just wanted to make a couple of comments about how busy Lincoln was this year. He didn't really toot his own horn. He did mention some of these in his presentation. There were two leases that were issued, one of the City Hall site lease and the other was the NG program. And that one was very complicated. It affected 4 different funds. We had to review agency funds for GASB 84 criteria, the new accounting standard. where there was a change of accounting principles. He reviewed the Walmart note to confirm that interest was due and who to pay. He mentioned the American Rescue Plan Act grant. That was very complicated, and he had to reach out to his network to figure out how to account for that. He looked harder at balance sheet items. He did mention especially capital assets. He mentioned there was a restatement of capital assets. There was a couple of new funds added, and that was all while there was change in staffing in the finance department. So he also had to recruit in the finance department. So bottom line was Lincoln was very busy, and sometimes I go through my presentation and auditors, we have these disclosures we have to make about things that went wrong. I just wanted to mention how hard Lincoln worked to get the ACFR out and to the state that it's in. So some of the required disclosures I'm required to provide. They're in a letter. There's two letters we issue. One is a management letter. One is a governance letter. The governance letter includes required disclosures. We also issued 2 appropriations limit reports, one for the city and one for the fire district. Those are the computations you approve at the beginning of the year. There was no issues we found there, so I won't talk about those anymore. The scope of our audit was consistent with our engagement letter. The only difficulty we had is there were quite a few closing entries, a few audit adjustments that did make the audit take a little bit more time than it probably should have. We didn't have any disagreements with management, no conditions on our retention or anything unusual of that manner. We have a management letter which has recommendations in it. You should see that in your packet. There were 4 of the 8 recommendations we had last year were implemented, so good progress was made. The recommendations we have left, and this one's really for operating departments. There's developer donated assets that have to be reported in the finance department as capital assets, and the operating department should get information from the developers on the value of those assets so that can be reported. So that would help out finance. I do want Lincoln to look a little harder at construction in progress. There's some projects in the enterprise funds that haven't had any activity in quite a while, quite a few years. Just want to make sure that those are still approved and ongoing and shouldn't be written off. I did mention in the management letter that there were quite a few closing entries, and I know Lincoln's working very hard to get everything streamlined. So I'm assuming that's going to be not as big an issue going forward. And then we had one other recommendation just to streamline the cash and investments reconciliation between all of the statements that exist and the general ledger. So that's all we had as far as the management letter. We don't consider any of those to be what's considered to be deficiencies. Those are just additional recommendations to improve the processes that already exist. The governance letter also shows what's called an unadjusted difference. If you looked at that letter, there's a schedule attached to it. That's just an entry we found so late in the process that we didn't have time to make it. It's not considered to be a significant issue, not considered to be material. So it's nothing that I'm concerned about. And so those are all the required disclosures that I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions or expand on anything you've heard tonight.
Questions from council for Mr. Nash? Seeing none? Well, I thank you for your report, and Mr. Bogart, we just certainly appreciate all the effort you put into this report. I know certainly, as we know, the economic impact of COVID has been very challenging for a lot of jurisdictions and cities, and good to hear that we're in good stead. So good to know our financial situations is in good position.
And I would note that the recommendation about the developer contributions, we've already had discussions with departmental staff to obtain that information going forward starting now. So that should clear itself automatically going forward.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Joseph.
Councilmember, exactly. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Lincoln. It's a good report. And I appreciate how hard you've been working to get things up to speed, and just looking forward to continued efforts, positive stuff going forward. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comment from council? All right, is there any public comment on this matter?
I've received no written comments and there are no hands raised at this time.
Okay. We had a number of items there that's attached to it.
Is this a receive and
Receive and
file?
file.
Receive and file,
It's
yes.
receive and file, yep.
So no motion required?
So the,
No notion is required.
I'm sorry, did we get public comment?
Yes, there was none.
There was no public comment.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, it's receive and file, so no action required other than receive and file. Thank you very much for all the work.
Yeah, great job, Lincoln.
I'm sure staff in your department, likewise, we appreciate the work they do for this as well. Thank you. Okay. Ready for management staff oral reports?
Yes, Mayor, we are. Public Works Director Smithies has an update for you all, and while she's brought onto the screen, I'll note a comment of my own. Last Friday, we held an employee recognition event. Mayor Garcia joined me, and we recognized employees for years of service and promotions, and also recognized our new hires. Usually we like to try and do that in person, associated with a holiday event we have over at the fire station, but because of the pandemic, we couldn't do it in person this year. So we did a virtual recognition event, and thank you, Mayor, for joining us. There's about 40 some odd employees between the new employees and those with years of service and promotion. So a substantial portion of our workforce. On a bit of a downer note, we do have a number of employees who are still being challenged specifically by COVID-19. We've had employees who are either sick themselves or within close contacts with folks. And so we're quarantining them and having them work from home and taking all the safety precautions that we can. So we think we've been able to maintain service levels, at least the basics in a pretty great fashion. And it's really a testament to everybody working real hard to kind of pull together. These last couple of weeks have been an extraordinary challenge, but employees have really pulled together and helped us push through this current surge. So if you're having any issues or having challenges getting hold of people or anything like that, please send them my way, and we'll get things routed in the right way. But just wanted to mention that, and I see Director Smithies is here now.
Jason, before Director Smithies goes on, I have a question for you.
Yes.
At what point are we going to consider going back to a virtual city hall and working from home? Because a lot of offices, I believe, are going back to working from home, and this Omicron spread is insane.
Yeah, so for us, we never physically opened City Hall. So City Hall remains closed, and we have a variety of work situations for employees. So we've been pretty flexible with accommodating different individual situations, and if you go to our website, it still says virtual City Hall on it, and we're pretty proud of how we adapted to the online environment. So we've been able to handle this shift in this current surge in a way that I don't think was actually too noticeable. But again, if there are issues or things that are getting missed, please let me know. I really wanted to thank the employees who've all been chipping in a variety of manners.
And I just want to make sure that we have a limited staff at City Hall, because the more people there, the more exposure, as we all know at this point. So thank you, and thank you to staff, absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just want to provide you a quick update on Devlin Road. Due to the dry weather, though we want more rain weather, they've been able to work, and they're really working in the next 3 weeks, tying in the wet utilities, our water, recycled water, and sewer out there on site at Devlin Road. In addition, due to weather and, start and stops of the project, they will be, extending the completion deadline to approximately April 20th of this year. I'll be providing a Facebook Live post next week, weather dependent, with communications manager Jen Kanzenbeck, and hopefully we have some more progress on the surface. Like last month, we got the curb and gutter on the east side done, but hopefully have more progress next week that's visible to the public and the community. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you for that report. Just go over there actually yesterday, just checking out what's going on in town. Tremendous amount of work done. Take advantage of the dry weather stations. I tune in, say it's probably going to be through the end of January, maybe first part of February before you get some rain. I'd like to point out though, we talked about traffic circles. Well, we in fact do have a traffic circle in American Canyon, actually half a traffic circle. It's on the north end of Devlin Road. So I look forward to that being completed. It's interesting going through that, seeing what it might turn out to be. But quite an incredible amount is being accomplished out there in that whole area. What's it, PG&E is their work seems to be underway. Having driven Devlin, was reminded that Graduate Credit Union is moving their corporate office to the airport area. With that, about 700 employees, and they expect to be expanding operations. So I think timing with the housing development in Watson Ranch will point out that there's going to be new residents in American Canyon. So I think that's another great thing to see. In spite of all the impact of COVID, there has been opportunity for us to advance our interest in development. So thank you for your report. Anything?
Mayor,
Yes.
if I appreciate the update. Do we have any other updates on some of the other projects, such as the eucalyptus sidewalk? How are we doing on that?
We are still working with our right-of-way agent and trying to make additional accommodations. We had an additional design revision for the impactful of the 3 sites that were part of the original deferred improvement agreement. So the right-of-way agent was meeting on site today with one of the property owners. We're trying to accommodate on-street parking as much as possible, and I haven't gotten a progress update today, as the meeting was today on site with one of the 3 property owners. One speaks for 2, and the other speaks on his own. So there's 2 other properties that we're trying to get dedications from, and we're working concurrently with those. They're less impactful than the 3 part of the dedication on the south side of Eucalyptus Road Drive. So design keeps revising just to this is like one further revision. We're hoping this is the last one, pending the outcome of today's discussions with the property owner.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions from council? Anything further, Mr. Holly?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Move on now to Mayor Council comments, committee reports, and future agenda items. We have received one from Councilmember David Oro and Councilmember Mark Joseph. Councilmember Oro, anything further to add to your report?
Yeah, and I probably should. This is the first meeting of the year, yes?
Yes.
Okay, I missed it in the last meeting, but the art committee had a meeting on December 8th, and I don't know, Councilmember Joseph, if you put that in your report or not, but we did go to the wetlands to meet with some members of the Parks Foundation to look at possible art locations. Community Development Director Brent Cooper joined us, and it was nice to be out there, and I think they're going to be working on that, and hopefully we'll see something come forward soon. But it was a good meeting. It was a good use of the art committee. We've been dormant for a little bit, but just know that happened, and nothing concrete yet, but possibilities and plans.
I did reference that, Councilmember Oro, so we got you covered.
All right, thanks.
Councilmember Joseph, anything further to add to your report?
Not really. Not really. It's there in the writing, so thank you.
Right. Very good. Councilmember Washington, anything to report?
Nothing to report this time. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember, Vice Mayor. I want to get that right. Vice Mayor, up and down. Have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything to report, but I do have a comment. I have noticed the red sidewalks near the fire hydrants on Silver Oak. But I've also, with that, so thank you for doing that. But with that, I've also noticed some chatter on social media of people being upset that the red line is so long, which makes me realize, and I think I might have mentioned this before, that a lot of people don't remember from when they took their driver's license exams that whether it's red or not, it's illegal to park there. And I think it's a 15-foot setback or 16-foot setback. A lot of people don't remember that. So I'm wondering if we can just put out some messaging on social media reminding people like, hey, we're free to ticket you. Your windows can get busted open if there's a fire, if you park in front of a fire hydrant and you pay the fees associated and it's, a 15 or 16-foot setback.
Yes, Vice Mayor, I can respond to that. I agree. It's something people don't always remember. We included some information in last Friday's city manager update about this with some pictures about the issue. So we can refer people back to that update and then they can read all about it.
Okay, thank you. There's also people that were asking if it's going to come, if their neighborhoods are going to be striped red. I think we talked about not doing that and just doing, the big problem areas. So I don't know if that's worth putting out on social media or not, but that's your call. I just wanted to let you know in case you haven't seen the chatter.
Thank you.
Anything further, Vice Mayor?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Visit Napa Valley had a very wonderful event in Napa. They're for those who may not be familiar, the tourism welcoming center for all of Napa County. And the focus this month is American Canyon. So mind you, the opportunity for that location, the office sits right between the two largest hotels in the city of Napa, downtown. Get a lot of traffic. It has increased an incredible amount from where they were located on Main Street. But, it gives a nice plug for our city and what we have to offer. Certainly the outdoor amenities that we have and restaurants. And it just was a great opportunity for us to get out there and help people champion American Canyon and what our opportunities we afford people here. You mentioned the parks earlier. The Councilman or the American Canyon Community Parks Foundation is doing a Heart Your Park, Love Your Park, the big hearts they're going to put in the ground. That's coming up in February. So those have been issued already to, I think they have picked a jury of or artists to do the work for that. It's kind of been slow, say recovery mode from, I think, the holidays off like the North Bay Watershed Association did not meet this month. The Flood Board decided to continue with the representation at NBWA. I'm the representative for that. ABAG had a very brief meeting, all for taking up the matter of having every 30 days we have to report that we need to continue meetings on Zoom. So, in and out. More substantive, I think that's on the way in. See what else can I bring up here? I'd like to have a conversation at some point, because I know the COVE project has been moved forward, but what concerns me driving by there is have we addressed safe routes to school from there? There's several gaps in sidewalks between that project, both north and south. And to get down to, you can connect, leave it up to the city manager and engineers to figure out which best side of the street to be on. I think I counted roughly 9 gaps about the houses to get out to Teresa. That would get you over to Walmart and shopping over there if that's what they desire. Going south, you have to come past the James Road Fire Station, one side or the other, and connect to Donaldson Way to go north or south. I do expect there'll be children in this development, so I'd like to know something for a future meeting on how that's progressing. On a more serious note, as we're all aware, our supervisor, Billy Ramos, was not appointed chair. And to me, that was very disappointing news to hear. And it concerns me because it is identified as by supervisor members as ceremonial position. Well, okay, I understand that. On the other hand, each representative on that supervisor represents the district. And that the community in that district can identify that, yes. My concerns from my community, my area are well addressed. And I have somebody who is in the lead role, the lead role, advocating for my interests. So I feel it's more of an additional part. But moreover, I think to me, this is more a collaborative type of thing. We all have to be working together in the best spirit. And, you know, I've talked with Supervisor Ramos. We're not always on the same page. We both acknowledge that. But the work has to go together, work together in the best interest of the community. And I'm concerned with that. And I just was wondering if council members likewise felt that issue. You know, I appreciate really her comments. She says, you know what, I will rise above. I will continue to do the work I need to do for my constituents in District 5 and for the county of Napa. And I said, well, that's an honorable thing to do. But I have concerns about it if anybody's wishing to address this issue, letter or email with the County Board of Supervisors, and so do so. We can do it individually, or if the council decides they want to do it collectively, then we can do that as well. Now, Joan Bennett did write a letter. I talked with her earlier. She's not able to get on the internet to address this evening, but you probably read her letter in the NEPA register if you get that or connect with it. She has rather strong feelings about it, understandably, from her end. So many council members want to weigh in on this matter. Okay, well, then I've expressed my thoughts on that. I appreciate that. We do need to work collaboratively with county, and regardless of their decisions in this matter. And I know we have some things that we're going to have some joint meetings on coming up in the future. Issues we need together, we need to help each other out on it. And in that spirit, that's how I would like us to move forward with this. So thank you. That would conclude my comments. Any future agenda items? Seeing none? All right. If there's nothing further for this evening, we have concluded our business. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
American Canyon.
American Canyon.